Imagine this with me. You're way out in the middle of the American backcountry. You've spent months dialing in a minimalist camping run. Every piece of gear is packed like a watchmaker laid it out. You're miles from the nearest paved road. And that deep woods quiet, that's the only thing keeping you company. But then it happens. The sky goes that ugly, bruised purple, and a big unforecast storm system comes in fast. Like, way too fast. Within a few hours, the main trail gets smoked by a flash flood. The landmarks you were counting on? Gone, buried under downed timber and fresh chaos. Your phone is basically a glass brick, 0 bars, and your satellite messenger? The antenna snapped when you ate dirt scrambling for cover. Now you're not camping anymore. You're surviving. In a high-stakes moment like this, every single ounce in your pack starts feeling like a lead sinker, dragging you toward exhaustion. And yeah, you reach for your firearm because it's the one tool that can give you protection and the ability to put food on the table. If this 3-day trip turns into a 2 ordeal, but the second you shift that weight, that heavy tactical rifle or that massive Magnum revolver, you feel it, that creeping realization. You might have brought the wrong tool for the job. Welcome to the Armory. I'm your host, and today we're peeling back the marketing hype and the Hollywood fantasy to look at the real-world truth of survival ballistics. We're diving into the 6 most overrated firearms for minimalist survival and wilderness camping. These are famous, they're reliable, they're powerful, but in a true survival scenario, they might actually be your biggest liability. Before we start breaking down the metallurgy and the mechanics, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss these deep dives into the tools of the trade. Now let's get into why your favorite range toy might turn into a survival nightmare. Starting our countdown at number 6, we're talking about the heavyweight champ of the handgun world, the .44 Magnum Revolver. For decades, this thing has been tied to raw stopping power and that rugged, old-school American West vibe. From the cinematic shadow of Dirty Harry to modern handgun hunters chasing grizzled giants in the backcountry, this caliber built a reputation as the ultimate wilderness insurance policy. The .44 Magnum story really kicks off in the mid-1950s. That's when Elmer Keith started hot-rodding the .44 Special, pushing it harder and harder, until Smith & Wesson finally answered with the Model 29. It was built for one job, a hand cannon that could stop a charging bull or a grizzly bear. Right now, from a pure technical standpoint, these revolvers are steel-built masterpieces. Most of them run a massive forged frame and a heavy cylinder, made to hold back that staggering 36,000 pounds per square inch of pressure from the cartridge. In double action, the trigger is usually heavy and intentional. In single action, it's crisp enough for precision hunting work. But here's the part people forget. The ergonomics of full-power .44 Magnum, they are brutal. That recoil impulse is sharp and vertical. And with an inexperienced shooter, that muzzle can climb close to 90 degrees. Now stack that with stress. Cold hands, no sleep, no calories. Rapid follow-up shots become almost impossible for most folks. And in minimalist survival, weight is your biggest enemy. A standard 6-inch barrel steel revolver comes in around 3 pounds empty. Now add a leather holster and several speed loaders stuffed with 240 grain lead slugs, and you're carrying almost 5 pounds on your hip. That's 5 pounds that could have been extra water, a better sleeping bag, or 10 days of dehydrated food. And if you're hiking 20 km through busted terrain, every step with that big iron dragging your belt is going to drain you. On top of that, the .44 Magnum has basically zero versatility for small game. If you try to take a squirrel or a rabbit with a Magnum load, you're not bringing home meat. You're bringing home fur and bone fragments. Sure, you can run .44 Special for less recoil, but the ammo is still heavy, and it's still expensive. Here's the reality check. When you're exhausted and your hands are cold, trying to manage that heavy recoil and that loud muzzle blast, while you're shivering, that's a recipe for a missed shot or a broken wrist. You're hauling a specialized tool for a 1% scenario, while giving up utility for the other 99% of survival needs. You can find used ones around $700, But a new high-quality Smith or Ruger, you're easily north of 1,000. Now moving to number 5, we run into the semi-automatic tactical shotgun. On paper, a 12-gauge shotgun is the most versatile firearm ever made. Birdshot for small game, buckshot for defense, slugs for big predators, modern tactical versions, like the Benelli M4 or the Beretta 1301, get used by elite military units because they're fast and they're reliable in a fight. These guns run complex gas piston systems or inertia-driven bolts. That cycle shells faster than most pump actions can keep up with. And yeah, the metallurgy on high-end Italian and American shotguns is legit. Chrome-lined bores, ghost ring sights, quick target pickup. But in a minimalist survival camping trip, a tactical semi-auto is a huge liability. First off, let's talk about the ammo problem. 12-gauge shells are a logistical nightmare. One box of 25 shells weighs over 2 pounds. If you want a mix of loads for different survival jobs, you're stacking 10 to 15 pounds of bulk into your kit real fast. Second, tactical shotguns can be picky about their diet. A gas system tuned for high-pressure buckshot might not cycle light birdshot, and birdshot is exactly what you want for harvesting small game in the woods. Then add days of bushwhacking, carbon, forest grit, debris in the gas ports, and now your elite combat shotgun is basically a very heavy single-shot club. The internal complexity matters too. All those springs and O-rings make field stripping a pain compared to simpler designs. And picture this. You lose a tiny spring in tall grass in a storm. Good luck. The tactical shotgun was built for high-intensity, short-duration urban fights, not getting dragged through mud for a week. A Benelli M4 will run you close to $2,000, but for survival, it gives you less real utility than a cheap plastic rimfire rifle. That weighs a fraction as much. At number 4, we've got a rifle a lot of folks call the peak of modern engineering. The FN SCAR 17, built for the United States Special Operations Command. This battle rifle was intended to replace the aging M14 and give a lightweight modular platform for the .308 Winchester cartridge. It uses a short-stroke gas piston and a monolithic upper receiver made from extruded aluminum. The SCAR is known for excellent accuracy and the ability to fold down into a compact package for transport. It's a status symbol, a dream gun for a lot of enthusiasts. But the SCAR 17 has a dark side in long-term wilderness survival. This platform is notorious for being a harmonic nightmare. That destroys high-end optics. That big bolt carrier group slamming back and forth creates a recoil impulse that can wreck scope internals, even scopes that would survive just fine on other rifles. In a survival situation, you're not calling a warranty department. You're not stopping by a gunsmith. So optic failure becomes catastrophic. And the SCAR is expensive and proprietary. If a specific part breaks, like the unique firing pin or the gas regulator, you're not finding that at a local hardware store. And you're not borrowing it from a fellow camper. Even the stock gets heat. A lot of folks criticize the plastic hinge because it feels flimsy on a rifle that costs over $3,000. Yes, the .308 caliber is great for deer or elk, but the rifle itself, it's an over-engineered answer to a simple problem. You're carrying a $3,000 precision instrument into grit and grime, where a simple scratch feels like a tragedy. It's a phenomenal weapon for a soldier with a supply chain, but for a minimalist camper, it's an expensive anchor. Our third contender is the AR-10. This is the older, larger brother of the AR-15. Eugene Stoner designed it in the late 1950s, and it was his original vision of a modern infantry rifle chambered in .7.62 NATO. Honah. Today, the AR-10 has come roaring back because it gives you familiar AR controls, with the long-range punch of a full-power rifle cartridge. A lot of people look at it like the do-it-all survival rifle. Here's the problem. There is no universal standard for the AR-10. Unlike the AR-15, which has a tight military spec most makers stick to, the AR-10 world is split, DPMS pattern, Armalite pattern, and that means magazines and internal parts often don't interchange. So if you're in a survival group and your buddy has a different large frame AR brand, You might not be able to share critical components. And beyond compatibility, the AR-10 is a beast to haul, a fully loaded AR-10 with a 20-inch barrel and a loaded magazine can easily hit 12 or 13 pounds. Dragging that through thick brush or up a steep mountain grade is a fast way to blow out your knees. And that heavier bolt carrier group, it usually wants significant lubrication to stay reliable in dusty or freezing wilderness conditions. Those fine tolerances can turn against you. Run out of high-quality gun oil, and jams start showing up quick. So again, you're carrying a heavy, specialized long-range tool in a situation that usually demands portability and simplicity. If you're watching this on your big screen right now, take a second. Grab your phone. Open the YouTube app. I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever tried to ruck 10M with a 10-pound rifle? Or maybe you found a lighter option, and it changed your whole approach to survival gear. Tell me what you've lived through, because a lot of times, the weight kills the mission before the first shot ever happens. Every comment helps us build a more informed community here at the Armory. Now, as we hit the final stretch, we land on number 2, the AK-47 platform. This is the most widely produced firearm in human history, and there's a reason for that. It came straight out of the brutal lessons of the Second World War. When Mikhail Kalashnikov designed a rifle, that could be run by a freezing peasant soldier with almost no training. The AK philosophy is simple. Overgas the system. Leave big tolerances between moving parts, so mud, sand, and ice don't stop the cycle of fire. The receiver is typically stamped sheet metal, and that long-stroke gas piston, legendary reliability in some of the worst conditions on Earth. In survival culture, the AK-47 gets treated like a holy relic of durability. People love the idea that you can bury it in a swamp for a year, dig it up, and it'll still go bang. But if we look at minimalist wilderness survival realistically, the AK starts showing its age. The big issue is weight and ergonomics. A standard stamped AK with a loaded 30-round steel magazine weighs close to 10 pounds. And the 7.62 by 39 millimeter ammo is effective, but it's noticeably heavier than modern small caliber rounds, and it doesn't have the ballistic coefficient for precise long-range hunting. In a survival situation, you're not fighting a war. You're trying to stay alive and stay fed. The AK-47 is also notoriously hard to modernize with optics, without heavy expensive side rails or railed dust covers, and those setups often lose zero. If you can't clearly see a target at 200 yards because you're stuck on crude iron sights, you're going to burn precious ammunition. And then there's the safety lever. It's loud, clunky, and it makes it tough to quietly transition into a firing position. When you spot a deer or a predator, the recoil impulse on 7.62 by 39 is also more substantial than a lot of people expect. It can have that rhythmic jarring that slows down follow-up shots. Will the AK-47 work if it's all you have? Absolutely, but you're carrying a heavy, blunt instrument of war when what you really need is a surgical tool for survival. Basic imports can be found around $800. High-end versions can easily top $1,500. It's legendary, but for a lone camper, it's not an efficient use of weight and space. And finally, we hit the most controversial pick at number 1, the AR-15, the most popular rifle in the United States, often called the modern musket. People praise it for modularity, lightweight handling, and outstanding accuracy. That direct gas impingement system Eugene Stoner designed lets the rifle stay slim and easy to run in a tactical context or home defense. You could argue there's no better tool. So why is it the most overrated for minimalist wilderness survival? Because the same complexity that makes it awesome can bite you hard out in the woods. The AR-15 is a finely tuned machine. It depends on a specific balance of gas pressure and high-quality lubrication. In the wilderness, you're dealing with constant moisture, fine grit, and not having proper cleaning supplies, and the AR-15 can become a liability faster than people want to admit. The rifle has dozens of tiny pins, springs, and detents, and if you have to do a field repair, in the dark or in the mud, those parts can disappear in a heartbeat. If a single gas ring fails on your bolt carrier group, or a small spring snaps in your trigger group, your rifle becomes a paperweight. Unlike a simple bolt action or a break action survival rifle, the AR-15 is hard to keep going without a proper workbench. And then there's the cartridge issue. The 5.56 NATO round, while excellent for defense, is a rough choice for a true do-it-all survival round. A lot of the time, it's too much for small game, like squirrels, leaving you with nothing worth eating, and it doesn't give you the stopping power you want for a clean, ethical kill on larger game like elk, or for stopping a charging bear. Sure, you can carry hundreds of rounds of 5.56 because it's lightweight, but now you're hauling ammo for a fight that you probably should be avoiding in a survival scenario. The AR-15 tends to encourage high-volume fire instead of careful conservation, which is what real survival is built on. It's an engineering masterpiece for the range and the battlefield. But in the quiet, lonely grind of deep wood survival, its complexity becomes a hidden danger. You can build one for $500 or spend $5,000 on a professional-grade setup. But either way, you're still betting your life on a system that needs more care than a minimalist environment is going to give you. As we close out this deep dive into these 6 legends, remember this: a firearm is only as good as the mission it was built for. We looked at the raw power of the .44 Magnum and the tactical dominance of the AR-15, but in the silence of survival, those strengths can flip and become weaknesses fast. Survival isn't about winning a gunfight or looking like a movie hero. No. It's the cold math of calories spent versus calories gained, and mechanical simplicity. That still works when your fingers are too frozen to function. The 6 firearms we covered today, they're incredible pieces of history and engineering, but for the minimalist camper, they represent a mindset of excess. When you're miles from civilization, you don't need a battle rifle or a hand cannon. You need a tool that's light enough to carry all day and simple enough to keep running with a multi-tool and a rag. So let me ask you, which of these would you trust your life to? If the world suddenly got smaller and a whole lot quieter, or maybe you've got a completely different philosophy on what makes the perfect survival companion. If you're watching on your big screen, grab your phone, open the YouTube app, and tell me where you land in the comments. I know every voice adds to this community and helps all of us stay sharper for the unexpected. Your experience might be the exact piece of advice that helps another woodsman make the right call. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one. This is the Armory signing.